Hello and welcome to the satsang. That sounded nice and beefy, didn't it, today? If you've not been before, welcome. If you've been before, welcome. Satsang means, it's a Sanskrit word, meaning us coming together and meeting in our authenticity without our usual display of plumage and the way we parade and try and impress each other and do things to please each other so that we'll not be abandoned by the group and so on and so forth. So, you know, even in the traditional satsang environment where you have the guru and the disciples come along in the ashram, there's still that sort of jostling position and people showing off about how straight they can sit and, you know, how senior they are in the organization and so on and so forth. So we have the privilege of dispensing with all that nonsense. And I'm not suggesting we're cleverer than anyone else, because I guarantee if we were all sitting in the room together, it would be the same bullshit going on. It's just the way people are with each other. And that's fine, because one of the things that we learn from the practice, from being on the path of self-realization, is that everybody's doing the best they can, each according to their current state of evolution at the time, and if they could do it any better they would. And we're all vulnerable, we're all weak, we've all got our tics and quirks and peccadillos, and we mask or disguise them with various levels of efficiency, and we have our compensatory devices that keep us kind of you know, that provide a sort of ballast to our personality so that we don't make too much of a fool of ourselves and blah, 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 blah. And so we know that everybody on the planet, and it doesn't matter which culture they come from, has a similar existential ecosphere. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, or if you're old, if you're young, midlife, child, from China, from America. It doesn't make any difference at all. Everybody has the same set of conditions to deal with, and knowing that, it elicits compassion, it elicits empathy. Also, by the practice, we by and by come to the realization, and it's not an intellectual realization, that's really just a preliminary step on the way, the intellect kind of making some sense of it, but it's a visceral one, a palpable one. We come to the realization that what we are is a lot bigger than what shows on the surface. You know, this person that we know ourselves to be is merely a front, and as you'll hear me repeat certain things often if you're familiar with what I do, because I find them fascinating, not because I'm trying to be boring. And I think they're important to remember that the word person comes from the ancient Greek word persona, which means mask. So what we are really, or what we think of ourselves as being, is actually just a mask, and behind which is the huge being that we really are, this huge being which is actually without limit. It's as big as the cosmos itself. It's just that it steps itself down into this human form so that it can experience itself as this. And anyway, so here we all are, all us human forms sitting together, 200 of us all the way around the planet. And this series of satsangs, Fresh Creation, is in honor of the new year, of course. It's a little bit gratuitous, but nonetheless, why not? The chance to reinvent the reality of our lives is present in every moment. But when we somehow formalize it, focus it, that gives it more power. And when we come together and combine our intentions to trigger something big in terms of change and transformation, it has a synergistic effect, meaning that each of our power to transform reality is multiplied exponentially by the power of 200. I don't know what that works out at, because my maths is, I'm lazy with maths, but it's big. You know, it's a lot of power. And what that actually means, though, is, and this is important because we're talking here about big changes, manifesting big changes in our lives. Now, I find this is a very, very interesting topic. I mean, I'm talking as somebody who's been messing about with all this stuff since I was 19, which is actually 40 years ago, when I went to Hong Kong and studied Taoist magic, which is what Taoism was famous for in those days, with a Chinese guy, for a few months over there. And I've gone through so many phases, but what's really, really fascinating is the things he taught me, the principles that he taught me at the beginning, were which were the ones that were the hardest to take on, the ones that I had the most resistance to, because they didn't suit my impatient, acquisitive, ambitious mind as a 19-year-old, and continued to fail to suit that part of me for quite a few decades, until in my 50s I started calming down about it all, and it's only now really that I get it, properly get it. And it's the principles that he taught me are the ones, and they're what I'm going to enumerate in a moment. So the first thing that big changes is it's enticing, it's exciting. We like big, we like grandiose, we like spectacular. It turns us on, of course. If you think about the sort of mainstream TV culture at the moment, the X Factor, American Idol, The Voice, whatever it is, it's hugely grandiose and pompous, and essentially, in my humble opinion, without much substance. And it's but astonishing attention and energy put into stylizing it, and it's that sort of grandiose pomposity which is not what you need when you are actually going to affect a huge change. Let me explain what I mean. Size is really only relative. So if you compare the things you want to change about your life, which seem huge to you, so say for example you're stuck in a relationship that you've been in for years that you really can't see a way out, but you are so unhappy in it and you really want to get out, but the thought of that just seems, well, on the one hand it really kind of liberates you and you want it really badly, and on the other hand, I can't, how can I do that? What will the kids say, what will the grandchildren say, and all the rest of it, and all the rest of it. Or say that you've been struggling with money for years and years and years and years and years, and you really, really, really want to experience life with money. You really want to know what it feels like to have that facility, for example. Or say you're ill, and have been ill with a chronic condition, for example, that you really want to heal, that you want to get better from, and so far not actually managed to, whether it's a mental condition, a physical condition, or whatever. And you can, and you really want to, but there's a part of you, I don't know if I ever will, I don't know if I ever will. These changes, these are just giving examples off the top of my head, but these sorts of changes seem really, really huge to us, and the hugeness of them elicits a certain kind of, almost like a superstitious aspect to our character, which is, oh, I don't know if I could, or I might have a go and I might be getting somewhere, then it's going to swipe me when I'm not looking and knock me down again because I don't deserve to do this stuff. I'm too arrogant, and the universe is trying to teach me to be more humble all the time, and so I mustn't have what I want. It's not really good for me, or it's not for me, or there's something wrong with me that makes me not have it, or whatever it is. We all have our complexes that block us from opening up to receive everything that we could have or can have in our lives. And it's so that it seems really huge, and the hugeness elicits complexes or neuroses, let's say. But when you consider the cosmos that we're in, if you take yourself out of the local context of the town you live in, or the village you live in, or the city you live in, or the country you live in, or even the planet you live on, and you go cosmic instead, which is your prerogative to do. In other words, if you widen your perceptual filters and get the sense that here we are in the universe, it's infinite as far as we know, and it's bloody big, and things are happening in the universe all the time that we're totally unaware of, that are so big that it's almost, well, it's imponderable. The birth of a star, 100,000 times bigger than the sun, or the collision of one galaxy with another, and all the planets of the various solar systems in those galaxies smashing into each other, and they're, for all we know, life on some or many of them, completely obliterated in a trice. And these things are happening throughout the cosmos, and even as we speak. Compared to that level of change, what we each want in our own lives is weeny in comparison. It's weeny. And it's good to know that. It's good to know that. it's good to attain and then be able to maintain that kind of perspective on the scale of what you're actually intending to change about your life, because that is what will help preclude all that unnecessary grandiosity and pomposity on the one hand, and all the unnecessary anxiety and hence stress on the other. Because why make it stressful? Why create anxiety unless you really enjoy it? And why blow things out of proportion? It doesn't give them more value. Essentially, we have to get to a place where changing things around to suit us better in our lives is really just a game that we're playing to amuse ourselves on the passage over, from birth to death. We get on the planet at one point. We go 66,000 miles an hour. It's a lot around the sun. How can't we know how many billion miles that is in a year? That the sun itself is spinning around the galaxy, which itself is spinning, is zooming through space. So, we get on at one point, and a few trillion or whatever it is years later, miles later, kilometers later, we get off on the other end. And so it's a journey. It's like going on a plane from London to New York, or a hovercraft from Dover to Calais. It's just a crossing. That's all it is. And while on the crossing, while on the plane over, quite nice to sit in first class. It's one kind of theatre. It's also quite nice to sit in business class. That's a different kind of theatre where you're a bit grumpy because you can't quite get the comfort you would on first class, but you don't really mind because it's better than being in economy. Or you could be in economy, which is a different kind of theatre, which is the kind of more cramped, but actually a bit more fun because you've got more people around. There's more to look at, more things going on, and so on and so forth. But it is just a crossing, and if you're on a boat, you could go and sit in the cafe bit. Maybe they've got a show you can watch or whatever. But whichever way you play it, you get off on at one point. You get on at one point. You get off on the other. So the changing of the conditions during the journey is really just that. It really is just that. And the more we let it be just quite an ordinary thing, the more chance we have of being really effective in triggering the sort of changes we want. So we think that to make a big changes, we have to do big things. We need a lot of noise, a lot of fanfare, a lot of drum roll, a lot of cannon fire, and big lights flashing and all the rest of it. We need to do something big to make something big happen, but we don't. We don't. Big things are happening anyway. The whole thing is a big thing. I mean, think of life. Think of 7 billion people doing things at the same time on a little ball floating through space. Think of the energy flows and the magma flows under the ground and the air currents and all the rest of it. It's huge. The universe is huge. There's huge movement going on all the time. So we don't have to do, like if you had a bull charging at you. In fact, yeah, take bullfighting, which is a horrible sport. I got taken to a bullfight as a kid in southern Spain, and what I did notice through this creepy, disgusting sadism of it all, apart from the fact of realising it was representative of the hunt, and so I could dig it on a primal level and where it was all coming from, was the skill in which the matador would entice the bull towards him and then turn only the slightest degree to avoid the bull goring him. And it's like if you've got a really powerful force that you're wanting to channel or guide or direct, you don't come at it with equal force. Firstly, you couldn't muster that kind of force. You couldn't be as strong as a charging bull. You do it subtly. You do it as subtly as possible with the least amount of effort and noise and fuss. That's what will make it move. I mean, like if you're flying a plane, a jet, a passenger jet, at what is it, 600, 700 miles an hour through the sky at nearly 40,000 feet above the ground with a few hundred people inside, and you want to change direction, you don't do it suddenly. It's not like some massive movement of the flapper things. It's little subtle movements that get this thing to move around to where you want it to go. And it's exactly the same for this. For us to direct the energy now to make big changes happen, and I do say it in that tone because I find it exciting, and we're allowed to enjoy that level of nonsense as well. We're allowed to. It's a game, like I said. We only need to do a subtle thing. In any case, everything, as I said, is changing already. Everything is changing already. And no matter what you change things into, they'll carry on changing themselves anyway. So the goal that you're trying to achieve, the conditions, the set of conditions you're wanting to change things into, won't be permanent. That's an illusion. It'll just be a moment in time where things are a certain way and that you'll recognize and go, that happened. It's happened. How lovely. But there'll still be the yin and the yang of it. There'll still be the dark and the light of it. No matter what set of conditions you manifest, there'll always be the side that's difficult as well as there'll be the side that's easy. So, for example, if you want to take a crass example, say you were really into fast cars, but it had always been your dream to have a supercar, you know, $1 million Bugatti or whatever, and you got it. Can you imagine, you know, if you were somebody who really wanted that really turned you on, and you got it, you'd be really, really excited, but I think very soon we'd notice that there's a whole lot of liabilities that go with it. Like, you wouldn't be able to go and park it in any old street in case somebody came along and scratched it. You'd be worried about that. If you got a bang on it or whatever it would cost, you know, and so on and so forth. There's always another side to everything, in other words. So the thing we're wanting to achieve is not actually the goal. That's illusory. But it's fun to play, and it's fun to score a goal. But it has no more real lasting significance than, say, a footballer scoring a goal, even a World Cup winning goal, because everything passes. Everything passes. So even the most amazing goal ever scored in football is only that. It was a moment in time. And it's not the situation that gives your life value. It looks like it is, but it's not. If you could manifest the most perfect situation for yourself, or not, if you now, and you will from doing what we're doing here, you will manifest a transformation of conditions, and imagine that you could get that set of conditions to more or less match what you have in your mind as the situation you'd love to be living in. It's not that. Even having that will not be the thing that gives your life value. For a moment, yeah. For a moment, there'll be this, wow, how beautiful. It's come to pass. Here I am. But as I said, there's the yin and the yang. It's not the attaining or the manifesting of situations by changing things that gives life value. It's enjoying the act of changing things that gives it value. It's enjoying the act of doing this. You've got to enjoy doing this thing. You've got to enjoy being alive and making change happen. So you're enjoying the process of it all, rather than pinning your fulfillment on some point in the future when you will have manifested the thing that you're trying to change everything into. That's silly. That's daft, because it's just a moment, and it won't last. Moments don't last. It's the process that lasts. So that is something that we can elect to enjoy. And what we're doing right now in this swirl of ever-changing phenomena is we're intervening cognitively, hence with power. That's the only difference to what you're doing all the while anyway, because you're constantly intervening without realizing it, with every thought that you have, with every action you take, with the intention behind every action, oftentimes completely unconscious, but that will change stuff. So you're already changing everything as it is, but what we're doing here is we're making a cognitive intervention, hence we're doing it with power, and then that has a definable, let's say, or a describable outcome. We will have the fun of observing how this affects reality. And now, talking of reality, we don't actually inhabit reality itself. We think we do. What we actually inhabit is merely a description of reality. And it's a description we've concocted ourselves. We've had the help of people who've written novels and made movies and taught us stuff at school, and my parents have taught us stuff. Well, they're the biggest ones, I suppose. And from all of that input, we've concocted, as children, and we didn't really know what we were doing very much, a story to describe reality to ourselves. And we describe the world to ourselves, we describe what's happening in it to ourselves, and we describe how we're standing in relation to all of that to ourselves. And we do this describing all the time, consciously and unconsciously. We're constantly describing reality to ourselves. And it's not reality that we're seeing our description of reality. And we maintain this ever-morphing description by talking to ourselves about it pretty much all the time, by running a commentary in the front brain area about what's this, what's that, I like this, I don't like that, I should do this, I should do that, I could do this, and so on and so forth. What's really magical, though, is reality conforms to our description and acts upon us accordingly. And then by changing the description, we actually change how reality acts upon us. That's the interesting bit. I have a friend in New Mexico called Michael Reynolds, who's the world's foremost solar architect, or kind of what he calls sustainable living architect, one of the world's foremost. I mean, certainly one of the first to do what he did. And an utter genius of a man. And one time in his, what I call it, his laboratory, it was this bizarre turret on top of his Adobe solar-powered, wind-powered, eco-sustainable house out in the desert. This is back in 1979, I'm talking, up in the high mountain desert in New Mexico. And he built a mobile in this round turret room, where there were windows all the way around the outsides of the room, around the walls and so on, mirrors, and the mobile, which was just a normal mobile, it wasn't anything particularly, there was no mechanism to it, hung in the middle of the room. So the deal is that you would look into the mirror to start with, away from the mobile, and just to check that it was totally stationary. Then you would start to slowly turn towards it, and as your eyes, your gaze started to fall upon the mobile, it started turning, it started spinning. And the more you looked at it, the faster it went. Then as you turned away from it, which you then checked by looking in the mirror, the mobile slowed down, eventually it just came to a stop. I don't remember the explanation of it. I'm going to get in touch with them and try and figure it out. But it was didn't really need one. It was just quite obvious. It was something to do with the heat of the eyes. I don't know. But it was a perfect example of how the observer affects the field, how the person doing the experiment actually changes the conditions of what's being experimented on. But we can only effectively do this with power. No, let me put it this way. We can't effectively do this with power while we're held in thrall to our present description of reality, because that hasn't allowed us the space to be and have and do as we want until now, well at this point. So we have to stop the commentary just for a while, enough in order to create a new storyline, a new description. And this is not done by attempting in vain to quell the noise in the forebrain, because that won't stop. That noise is there all the time, even when you're dreaming. It's done by actually eschewing the forebrain altogether as the mind's perch, and instead let your mind perch back in the cerebellum, in the rear brain, where all is silent and still, and where the deeper aspects of consciousness is available and accessible. At that point, we then have to clarify our intention for the desired set of outcomes and conditions. We have to describe reality differently, and must make this description as broad as possible to allow reality to perform with the greatest degree of freedom. Reality has its own wisdom and intelligence, far greater than can be channeled by any of us as individuals. So when we give it its head, so to speak, it performs way better for us. In other words, reality is delighted to show off to us, providing we give it enough latitude to do that. And if we make the demands on reality too constrictive, too limiting, reality doesn't have the space to perform. It needs a big stage reality. Think of how big reality is. It's huge, you know. It's as big as the universe. So it needs a big stage to perform on. And when we limit it with our little local views of what things should be like, based on a limited experience, because we've not gone there yet, it cramps reality, and so it can't perform for us optimally. And as I said, we also have to accept that owing to this immutable fact of the yin-yang contract expand cycle, things going difficult, then going easy, then difficult, then easy, and then getting it wrong, and getting it right, and so on. No matter what we change things into, there'll still be an aspect that needs fixing, as nothing is ideal. Hence the wisdom in knowing value consists in enjoying the process rather than expecting the results themselves to bring you fulfillment. It occurred to me, thinking about this today, that when Gandhi, who I did study in some depth at Ronnie Lang's behest as a young man, because he was quite a phenomenal character, more than is generally known about him, but when he said, be the change you want to see, an expression which is in grave danger of becoming a major cliche, unfortunately, because it's a brilliantly succinct little aphorism. I mean, he wasn't just referring to changing the world at large. He was actually primarily referring to our own individual worlds. Be the process of the change you want to make happen. Embody the process. Let the spirit of what you want to be within you already as a presence. So there is this process of change, changing reality into something different. Embody the process, be that change. Literally, be that force of motion that makes the changes happen. Embody that, be a vehicle of that motion, of that force. But none of it is possible until we first honor and love and be willing to enjoy the process as it is right now. So before you even started to attend to the magic of creating something new, you have to honor what you're doing right now. You have to honor the process of change as it's occurring right now. Even if things seem really static and unchanging, we know they're not, because every single part of this universe, from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest galaxy, is in motion perpetually. So things are changing even without us knowing it. The table that the laptop rests on is already disintegrating, but you can't see that because it's happening on a subatomic level. And it will only be in many, many, many years before that becomes visible to the naked eye. You have to honor and love and enjoy this process right now. Loving it as it is, rather than deferring your enjoyment until you've changed things, makes it be a reality now. So you're already in the process of manifesting what you want. You already are. And that reality will then grow of itself, because once you honor something's presence and you focus on it as that, it grows of itself. That's like me looking at the mobile spinning, and as I look at it, it starts to spin and turn away. You know, it grows as you focus on it. It grows in power. So this is what then helps us preclude all that superstitious nonsense that we perpetrate on ourselves, linked with low self-esteem and the deficit of self-worth, which we all suffer from, everyone on the planet, for whatever reason it is, intrinsic to the human condition, to believe that somehow we're not good enough and we're not worth it, you know, we're not worthy. But that is all just a load of nonsense that is associated with the story, the description that we've told ourselves. It's not intrinsically who we are. It's not the big self that does it. The big self cannot be suffering from low self-esteem. The big self cannot have a deficit of self-worth, because it is the all. You know, ultimately, it's the all, and there cannot be any deficit of anything in the all. But this way of doing it, this loving it as it is, including all the superstition, including all the fears, including all of it, helps us completely sidestep that whole process of having to try and bolster the self-esteem and the self-worth. That will happen on its own anyway. So it doesn't even depend now on knowing that you deserve and are entitled to change, or to change it however you want it to be. But of course that helps. It's much deeper than that. This is about loving it as it is right now and injecting into that love a command for it to transform itself into something even better. And this applies no matter how huge your challenge appears, no matter how huge the blocks to you having what you want appear to be. And because you don't have to make any grandiose moves, because you don't need the drum rolls, the fanfares, the cannon shot, or to make proclamations at the court of the king. You merely need to be subtle and follow the path of least resistance until it takes you all the way to the reality you'll describe here today. The whole thing actually becomes a lot of fun. And that really, I think, in my nearly 60 years on the planet, is sure the most important thing there is, fun. And I don't mean nonsense fun. It can be nonsense, it can be trivial, superficial fun, if that's what's blowing your hair back at the time. There's nothing wrong, there's no judgments here. But I'm talking about the fun, the delight of knowing that being alive is an adventure, that being alive is the gift of all gifts, and that the whole thing, other than that, is a game. So how you change the conditions of being alive, and whether you sit on the left or the right of the plane, or in the front or the back, the fun is of just being. And no matter what you're going through, because if you're in first class, you can guarantee there'll be people in the first class that'll be thinking, I wish I had my own G5 to fly me across the Atlantic here instead of having to go on public transport. You can guarantee it. I've heard people say that very thing. So it doesn't matter. If you're not satisfied, it doesn't matter how much stuff you get, you'll still not be satisfied. But the other way, this way of having fun, is like whether you're shut up in a bucket seat and feeling all cramped, or sitting sprawled out on a bed in the front of the plane, you'll enjoy the theatre of it just the same. It will be fun. It doesn't matter. You'll enjoy yourself complaining to yourself. You'll enjoy watching your mind go through its stuff. It's the delight of being. Now that can only happen when you come back inside the body properly. I will now take us into the meditation and help you, or let you experience that now for yourself. So let this be the moment to let go of the thinking mind. Let it drift. Give it a little break. It's been working very hard there. To let go of the tension of the body and all the holding of yourself rigid. To let go of all the descriptions just for a moment, and to relax. Just relax, meaning just check wherever in your body is tight or hard or rigid, and just soften it. Just give it the command. Say, come on, ease off now, ease off, and relax, soften. And you start at the top of your head, and you work down over your face, and you let your cheeks go, and your eyes go, and your ears go, and your chin go, your jaws go, and your jaw go, and your temples, let them relax, and the back of your neck, and the sides of your neck, and your throat, and your shoulders, and your shoulder tips, and your shoulder blades, and your shoulder cap muscles, and your upper arm muscles, and your lower arm muscles, and the small muscles in your hands, and the muscles that go under your armpits and down your sides, and the muscles that go across your chest, and the muscles that go between your shoulder blades and that run down either side of your spine, and all the connective tissue surrounding the liver on the right, and the spleen and pancreas on the left, and the stomach, and the intestines, and the kidneys behind, and the bladder down below, and the sex organs, and the muscles of the stomach, and the muscles of the lower back, and the muscles of the pelvic floor, and the gluteal muscles in the buttocks, and the hamstrings, and the quadriceps, and the adductors, and the abductors, and the soleus muscles, the calf muscles, and the feet, and the toes, until every single part of you has softened to some degree. And then notice that you've probably been holding your breath a bit, or breathing slightly unevenly. So stop holding the breath and breathe out with a sigh, if you like a ah. Just let the tension go from the breathing, and breathe slowly and smoothly and calmly. If you can, allow your belly to swell, expand as the air comes in, and to contract, pull backwards towards the spine to shove the air out again. So you're then relaxing the belly. It swells big to draw the air in, and then pull the muscles back, and that pushes the air out again. If that feels comfortable, Let the breath be smooth, silent, silken, and you'll notice your tone of mind starts to match that instantaneously. And then expand your physical frame. Imagine somebody raising the crown of your head upwards towards the ceiling as if there was a piece of thread there that they were pulling upwards on to give your spine more length. Let your shoulders drop. Imagine that you are an angel and you have a huge pair of angel wings big enough to get you airborne. And the weight of the wings, one attached to each shoulder blade, is so great that it pulls the shoulders down and broadens them out. They're just very gently, as if there was a little hook on the upper chest in the middle there that someone was pulling upwards and forwards diagonally. Just feel your breastbone raise up and go outwards just slightly, half a millimetre. And this is a gesture of rising up to all that is beautiful within and around you. Let the weight of your head and your shoulders and your chest, which is so considerable, sink down into the lower parts of your body and settle below your navel and in your legs so that you feel rooted and grounded and fairly solid in the lower part of the body while feeling light and free in the upper part of the body. And now the big move, rather than be in the front of your body where all the noise and the emotion and the fear and the excitement occurs and all the conversation in the front of the head, come back instead. You're allowed, it's your entitlement, and it's the place where expert martial arts practitioners will go in contest or in a fight, because it's where you're safe, it's where your strength is, it's where the mind is perfectly still, and you can think absolutely clearly and receive the vital information that you require from your intuitive mind. And allow yourself so to sit right back inside as if you are leaning up against your own shoulder blades, the front of your own spine, and your rear pelvic bones and sacral bone at the base of the spine, like leaning right back in a really well-designed, comfortable chair. And at the same time, tilt your head back just a fraction of a millimetre as a gesture of tipping your mind backwards, like getting your mind to move into the back of the skull and perch instead in the rear brain, in the cerebellum, which is the seat of your true knowledge. It's the seat of your true consciousness, the deeper part of you. And be in the back here. So now you're in the back of your skull, you're in the back of your body, you're breathing, and you're aware of what's going on in the front. You can feel that little bit of tension in the solar plexus area. You can somehow discern the residue of the noise in the forebrain. But there is none of it in evidence. You can't hear any noise in the forebrain. You are not the tension in the belly. You've stepped back behind it. Visualize the two halves of your breastbone separating like a pair of sliding doors to reveal quite mysteriously, magically, and majestically your innermost beauty there in the core of your chest, the essence of your soul, the unique gift that you come to manifest reality to contribute. Let that jewel radiate light and sweet fragrance ubiquitously without limit, far and wide, through the center of your chest. But you're back behind it observing this happen. You don't make it happen. You don't make the love pour out of you or the beauty pour out of you. It just does of itself by opening the chest and allowing it, because that is its nature to do. And at the same time, specifically really through the back at the heart level, so between the shoulder blades, right down there, as if there's an opening there, you also feel yourself drawing in, receiving the love of the universe, the love inherent in every piece of motion, of every subatomic particle, of every atom, of every bit of wind, of every bit of air current, of every bit of psychic energy, that everything that exists throughout the cosmos has love at its core. And you're allowing that into you. You're drawing in the essence of love through the back as you're giving it out through the front. But you're just sitting right back inside. Now, the Taoists talk a lot about the backward flowing motion. We're born, we rush forwards, and we die. They say, stop rushing forwards instead. If you really want to make progress, and if you really want to expand your reality, move backwards instead. Counterintuitive, but it works. Because when you move backwards against the flow of so-called linear time, the apparency of the flow, you're actually making yourself younger as you get older. You're returning to source. You're backing up into where you came from, which is the big Tao, the big mystery. And the more you back into that, the more power you have. So just allow yourself to keep moving backwards inside the body, not just into your own back. Go beyond that. Go even back out of the back of you. Keep going through inner space. Just keep falling backwards, falling backwards, falling backwards, falling backwards. And by, as you go faster and farther, you'll find yourself caught by the Tao. You'll find yourself backing into the bosom of the Tao itself. It's like backing into Big Mama. And her big bosom encompasses you, envelops you, and holds you like a bouncy castle, a universal-sized bouncy castle. So you're sitting right back in the back of the universe now. Your heart is open. The purpose for that is to keep you connected to all other sentient beings, and specifically the 200 people in here with you right now. And from back here, honor, contemplate your story until now. So behind you, in the material sense, kind of, is your story, everything that's happened to you in your life until now. And because of the yin and yang, that will comprise both the pain and the pleasure, the challenges, the difficulties, and the triumphs. All of it, the nasty bits, the beautiful bits, all of it. Encompass all of it behind you. Own it. It's yours. That's your wealth. Give thanks for it. Honor it. Embrace it. If you could embrace something behind you, just own it. Take it, because it's yours. And all of it. For this is your wealth, and this is your power, and this has been you till now, engaged in the process of changing things. You might not believe that the way you've changed them is as efficient as it could be, or as beneficial as it could have been. And that's why we're doing this now. But it is you having changed things successfully, and the proof of that is you're here right now. It worked. So fine, honor it. Honor all the shit, all the jewel, honor all of it. Love it. Give thanks for it. So you're aware of what's behind you, your past, and you're owning it now. You're not splitting it off anymore. Then consider where you are right now, or how you've been right now until we started this meditation, you in your life. It's really the description of reality that you've been subscribing to. And give thanks for it, your world as you're perceiving it. Honor every aspect of it, all the people that you know, people you love, the people you like, people you don't like, the aspects of the culture that you love, the bits that you don't, the places you've been, the places you haven't been, the places you want to go, the things you're scared of, the things you want, all of it. Just the whole description of reality that you're subscribing to right now. Just be aware of that and give thanks for it. Just give thanks for the fact that you're even able to describe reality to yourself. Then be aware that underlying whatever fixture that you're trying to create in your mind, because we do try to hold things stable, be aware that really beneath all of these apparent permanent phenomena, none of which are, is the force of change. Within all phenomena, however solid, even the greatest mountain range, there is the force of change. Feel the force of change inherent in your description of life. So as steady or solid or fixed as you thought reality to be until now, the situations that seemed intractable, that seemed impossible to get out of, see those situations, but now see the force of change inherent in them, so that despite themselves, like the Soviet Union, they inevitably collapse and give way to something better to come through, something different to come through. And then give thanks for this. Just give thanks for being somebody right now who has the gift of life and is able to sit here and feel the force of change inherent in your description. This is the gift, just to be here. Now, contemplate destiny, just the idea of destiny, the notion of it, what is to come. And dare to widen your limits of what is acceptable. In other words, what you're willing and capable of accepting as blessings. This means, on the one hand, that you're willing to see the splendor of the Tao in a lowly toilet bowl as much as you're willing to see it at the loftiest mountaintop temple. But it also means that you're willing to accept, to receive a far greater scope of blessing. I mean blessing, I mean all the things that you want your life to be filled with, all the good things you want. So dare to widen your limits of what you're able to receive now. And a real quick way of doing this is to focus for a moment on your temples. So you're still in your back, you're still way back here, and you're giving the command to your temples to sort of broaden out. This is like there's a set of blinkers that are attached to each temple, and they're now opening to the sides, affording you a view of the entire light spectrum. So the sense is your temples are relaxing, your forehead is kind of broadening out to the sides, and you're now able to encompass a far greater scope of view. And that is now going to enable a greater, broader flow of events coming in. Then, without defining and thereby limiting the scope of what can actually occur, discern rather than make up the broad, all-encompassing principles of what you want. So rather than looking at the actual details and then being required to intellectually analyze how the hell that could be possible, because they all seem to conflict with common sense or with each other or whatever, discern the broad-based, all-encompassing principles that will comprise, when they come about, everything you want, but still give reality all the space it needs to perform as hugely as it's capable of, rather than limiting it. For example, you may want to be, I'm making this up as I go along, you may want to be living a life that affords you far more freedom in all possible senses. And think about that, a life that gives you more freedom, freedom of movement, freedom to be yourself, without limits, freedom to enjoy yourself as you wish, with whom you wish, when you wish, in all possible senses, to express yourself as you wish, to go where you wish, when you wish, freedom. Or you may want to be living a life that affords you far more ease, comfort, convenience, even luxury. And it's all okay. It's all okay. You may want that. You don't have to define where that is going to come from or how it's going to come. You just need to define the principle. So you might want that. You might want more ease, you might want more comfort, convenience, or even luxury. Or you might want a life that affords you far more love and the thrill of connection with others at a deep level. Or that affords you far more fun, or more health, or more creativity, or travel, or warmth, and so on. Or you may want all of those and lots more. Take a moment to discern the composite aspects of your intended outcome right now. I will leave you in a moment of silence. Stay in the back, and just take a moment from the back of you to discern just the sense of what are the composite aspects of your intended outcome. And remember, this only works if starting from a place of loving the degree of all those aspects you already have. See, if you're wanting to live a life that affords you far more freedom, which you probably comprise being much less of a people pleaser, more self-possessed, not selfish, more wealthy, more money coming so you can do more things. You start by loving those aspects that are already extant in your life right now, however small they may be, because from here it's easy to make them all grow. If you're not already loving these aspects because you're blinding yourself to them, they can't grow because you're in denial of them, hence they've been split off and can't benefit you. So assuming that you were with something like that template that I suggested, but you can adapt this to suit yourself. Welcome in, from the back of you, welcome in the spirit of freedom. You can see it as a being. You can see it as a goddess or a god. You can see it as an angel. These are just thought forms that help the mind grok the thing. Welcome in the spirit of freedom. Feel it. Come into your being. Embody it. Let it fill you. And so that you now are the spirit of freedom. Welcome in the spirit of wealth. Feel it come in. A beautiful, benign being. Wealth. Pure wealth. Nothing bad about it. No greed. No dirt. None of that stuff. No judgments. Just pure wealth. Resource. Welcome the spirit of wealth in. So much so that you are now yourself the spirit of wealth. Welcome in the spirit of health, of healing. Let the spirit of healing fill you so strongly that you are now the spirit of healing. Welcome in the spirit of success, doing what you want to do well, making it happen, all things that you want to come to pass, coming to pass, so that you can say, I am successful. Welcome in the spirit of success, so much so that you are now the spirit of success. Feel it enliven every cell in your body. And then welcome in the spirit of joy and delight. Just welcome it in so strong that it's making every cell in your body buzz and hum, so that you are now the spirit of joy and delight. Welcome in the spirit of love, of companionship, so that you are the spirit of love. You are the spirit of companionship. You have it in you now. You are now the change you want to see. You're feeling it. You are it. You're embodying it. You are now the spirit of the change you want to see happen. Now, just for fun, to get the message into the subconscious mind, dare to see yourself in various random, spontaneously arising snapshot vignettes. A short while hence, let's not put it too much of a time frame on it, but a short while hence, living that life, being that person, be in the back of you, see it all from there. Just little flashes of vignettes that pop up spontaneously in the middle of the brain there, that kind of project themselves onto the inside of your forehead. Maybe you in a social situation, you in a professional situation, you in bed with somebody, you dancing, you laughing, you flying somewhere, you walking on a beautiful warm beach, you feeling fantastic and magnificent. Just see little vignettes, just see it, see yourself as that. See yourself as that person and see it all from the back of you. And in doing so, implicit is you generously giving the nod for the same to be happening to everyone else too. For as you shift things, things do shift for everyone by and by, as it's all one interconnected continuum, and nothing, without exception, exists in a vacuum. So that as you shift the conditions of your own reality, it will necessarily have a cause and effect reaction on everyone else's reality too. Very subtly, by and by, but in some ways quite a big one. And intend for this to be benign, of course. It doesn't have to be bad. So the superstitious part of the mind will go, oh, but then they might get hurt, whatever. No, your intention is for everyone to feel this same grace that you're feeling right now. And be aware that as of now, in fact it's always been so, but we're making it cognitive now, as of now, every action you take, no matter how insignificant, whether it's turning on a tap or stepping on a stair or turning your head or waving your hand or starting off a huge organization or jumping off a bridge with a bungee thing or whatever, it doesn't matter. However small or big the action is, whatever action you take from now on, however seemingly insignificant, is contributing to the desired transformation of conditions. So that even if you're not actually emailing people or going to meetings or telling people what you think or want or doing whatever practical stuff you think you'll need to do to kind of go along with this movement. Even if the thing you're doing seems to have nothing to do with any of it, all of it is actually contributing to the desired transformation of conditions. Every single thing you do from now on is conducting chi towards the desired outcome. And you might want to compound this notion by telling yourself, every single action I take now, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is having profound, far-reaching, benign effects. Every single action I take now, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is having profound, far-reaching, benign effects. Every single action I take now, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is having profound, far-reaching, benign effects. Every single action I take now, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is having profound, far-reaching, benign effects. Every single action I take now, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is having profound, far-reaching, benign effects. For as you say it, so it will be. Then, without disembodying the spirits of wealth, freedom, and so on, holding them within, embodying them still, continuing to embody the process of change, continuing to maintain yourself in your bag, where it's your entitlement to reside as much of the time as you wish, knowing that when you do, you are in the state of power. Re-enter the so-called usual waking state, ready to enjoy watching the changes accelerate and intensify now, because they will. Not because it's important in itself that they do, but because it's enjoyable being party to the process. And wriggle your toes and wriggle your nose and wriggle your fingers and do whatever else you need to come back in, open your eyes if you want. And if you have questions that you'd like to put to me now about this or related matters, this is the moment. And I will now hand us over to Sue to conduct this little part of the proceedings.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so we've got one question pre-submitted, and we also have Beppy who would like to talk with you, Stephen. So I'm going to... Beppy's hand's gone down again now, so I'm not sure if she does or not. Yep, the hand's back up, so I'm going to unmute Beppy now.
Hi, Barefoot Doctor. How are you?
Hello. I'm very good, Beppy. All the better for hearing from you. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine. Much better after this satsang. You are such an inspiration.
Thank you.
I have been struggling with my health somewhat, and therefore I'm going to apply everything that you suggested in this session, you know, towards my health.
Yes. Good. What's wrong? Do you want to say what a bit?
Well, I spoke with you. I have recuperated from a cancer situation, you know.
Yeah.
But since then, I have different things that have kind of gone awry with my body. And right now, the main thing, and it might be my own fault, is because I ate maybe too much. Not that I'm overweight, but I have gained a few pounds, and now my blood pressure is high. So I need to move more. Maybe do more exercises and things, you know, and sometimes I just get kind of stressed out and I think, well, you know, I'm just going to lay on the bed, but that's not a good idea. I need to keep moving and doing stuff, and I think you inspired me, and you've done that in the past too, but sometimes I backslide, you know. But
yeah, we all do. But Beppy, you know that also specifically it would be good to concentrate on your kidneys, because that's what really kind of controls the blood pressure. And if you were to just spend a moment or two every day concentrating on your lower back area, and
Yes.
sort of leaning back into where the kidneys are and visualizing them all warm and
And
soft.
maybe rubbing them or not?
Yeah, you can, to bring your mind to them. It's not so much the rubbing, it's getting the mind to go there. And I really recommend the Taoist healing sound. Is for the one for the kidneys, it's
Yes.
this. It's whee, and you just even think the sound. You don't even have to make it whee, and that warms the kidneys up nicely.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, because I recorded one of your sound meditations a long time ago, and I have the lungs, I have all of them, so I really need to play that more often, because
But you know, also more importantly than that though, is just giving the command to your body. Come on, balance yourself. You can do it. Balance yourself. You say it to your body. You know, come on now, balance yourself up, and your body will. It will obey if you tell it to.
Okay, that is great advice, and I'm going to practice these things much better and more frequent, and then in a couple of weeks I report back to you.
Nice, good for you. I'll be thinking of you, sending you healing as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, bless you.
Bless you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Beppy. Lovely to hear from you. Okay, so anybody else who would like to talk live on air with Doc, please click the blue circle with the yellow hand and the green arrow, and I'll pop you straight through. Meanwhile, we have a question from Elizabeth, which is really in 3 parts, Stephen. Elizabeth says, can massive change happen fast? Can we cope with it? And should we wish for fast change?
A big change does happen fast. It goes along incrementally for a while, or it seems to, but there are actually a series of growing sized quantum leaps that we're hardly aware of until suddenly the thing has shifted. And it's like what can I liken it to? Well, I mean, if I was going to say I was going to say climate change, actually, but maybe that's a bit heavy to talk about right now. Sea level rises, for example. You know, it goes along pretty much looking the same, carries on, a couple of centimetres rise each year, or whatever it is, each decade, and a bit more. Then suddenly, whoosh, the whole sea level rises. It's a thing of, and at that point, it happens suddenly. So big change does happen in a positive way as well, of course. It does happen suddenly. Should we want it to accelerate? It's not. We don't live in a world of shoulds. We could want it to accelerate. It's completely up to us. It's a game. And I have a very strong feeling that it won't do that unless it's ready to anyway. So what we're doing here is kind of participating with what's going to happen anyway, but we're just guiding it into to be as beautiful as it can possibly be. And we don't live in a world of should, so we're free to do whatever we want. And if we're feeling that impulse, that even if it feels like a lustful, greedy impulse for things to speed up, let it be. That's fine. Go with it. Always go with those impulses. It's beautiful to do that. That's the joy of being a spontaneous human being. So yeah, if you're feeling it, to accelerate the process, just give it the command. Accelerate the process, and it will be. I don't remember what the third or the second one of those bit. What was the other question?
Can we cope with it?
Well, that you'd have to answer for yourself, but I think that as well comes from a choice. So you'd have to then say to yourself, right, I am now accelerating the process of change in my life. I am agreeing with myself that I will cope with it, whatever. I will open myself to receive, however big it is, however fast it comes. I can cope with it. I choose to. And it's good for me to be going with this impulse. I trust myself. If I'm feeling this, then that's what I'm going with. That would be the line I'd take with yourself, really. So it's all up for grabs. It's your choice entirely. So yeah, of course you can cope with it if you want to. Why not?
Okay, we don't have any more questions at the moment, Stephen. So if anyone does have a question, now is your chance. Please do type it in the box or raise your hand. Meanwhile, we do have a couple of comments. Sarah in Texas is saying, thank you so much. Awesome, exhilarating meditation. Thank you. Many blessings your way from Texas.
And many blessings your way from England. Bless you, Sarah. That's lovely of you. Thank you, thank you. Blow a kiss to Houston from me.
And Eileen's saying, thank you so much. I enjoyed this satsang and also all the beautiful images.
Good, Eileen. Thank you.
Okay, well,
So,
no more
that's it
questions,
and that's
Steve.
all.
So I think that's it and that's all, as you would say.
Yeah, that's a beautiful. Thank you, Sue. That was a lovely one. I enjoyed it. I hope everybody, and this is my deepest intention, that will have now, is already having the desired effect, and that in a very gentle, beautiful, elegant way, life will shape itself now. And all you have to do is relax and keep coming into the back of you, and remember, it's beautiful already as it is. Keep remembering it's beautiful already exactly as it is. In other words, even this would suffice, but it's all going to be even better than this. So just relax and enjoy that. It's a movie, and that's the movie, that's the storyline. It's just going to get better now. Relax and trust that. Go with it. And it doesn't matter if it didn't, because it's beautiful as it is right now. That's it. So there's no losing here, only gaining. And you are going to gain an amazing amount from this. I know it. I see it. I intend it. I wish it for you. And we all are. And this will have an effect on everybody in the world. It will alleviate the suffering somewhat, and it will ameliorate the atmosphere for everybody. Let it be so. Do come next week. It's going to get more and more powerful. All my love to you. Bye-bye.